a $68,000 bag, a candid photo that was clearly anything but, and a father who allegedly got tired of watching his daughter get used and decided to hand the other side everything he had. Blake Lively wanted this week to look effortless. Instead, it might be the week her whole story started falling apart. Hey everyone, welcome back to Amelia Brown. This is the channel where we don't just repeat the headline, we actually sit down and pull it apart, piece by piece, until you can see exactly what's happening underneath the spin. And today we've got a big one. Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and a twist nobody saw coming. Because now Taylor Swift's own father is reportedly at the center of this. So settle in, because there's a lot to get through, and every single detail here matters. Let's get into it. Let's start with the picture everyone's staring at. Blake Lively, walking around like nothing in the world is wrong, holding a handbag that reportedly cost $68,000. $68,000 for a bag. And right next to her, Ryan Reynolds, carrying his own accessory worth around $57,000. Together, that's a stroll down the sidewalk, worth more than most people make in a year. And normally? Fine. Spend your money however you want. But timing is everything here, and the timing is not subtle. This is a woman in the middle of a legal fight where the entire question is her credibility. Was she mistreated on a set? Or did she try to manufacture a narrative and punish anyone who didn't play along? And in the middle of that fight, what do we get? A flawlessly lit, perfectly angled, oh-so-casual photo op. Come on, nobody just happens to be caught mid-sip with perfect lighting and a five-figure bag on their arm. That's not an accident, that's a plan. And if you're trying to convince the public, you're the one who got hurt here, strolling around projecting not a single worry in the world, is a strange way to do it. It doesn't read as relatable. It reads as completely out of touch. And honestly, it makes you wonder if that's been the real problem the entire time. She's spent so long managing the image that she forgot the image stopped being the story a long time ago. Here's where this stops being awkward and starts being genuinely damning. Because part of what's reportedly under the microscope right now are the text messages from Blake's time filming It Ends With Us. And what's allegedly missing from those messages tells you more than what's supposedly in them. Think about it. If you were actually living through a serious, sustained pattern of mistreatment on a film set, wouldn't there be one text somewhere? One message to your husband saying something felt off. One note to a friend, an assistant, anyone. We live in a world where people text about their coffee order in real time. So the idea that months of alleged harassment left behind zero digital trail? That's not just unusual. That's a hole in the story big enough to drive a truck through. And according to those familiar with the messages, what does exist is Blake venting about hating Justin, trashing his creative decisions, and reportedly pushing Taylor to come over and back her up. That's not the paper trail of a victim. That's the paper trail of someone running a campaign. And then there's the part that really seals it. Sources say Blake allegedly asked Taylor to delete their private messages entirely. Not preserve them, not keep them safe in case they're ever needed. Delete them. Listen, people who are confident the truth is on their side do not ask for evidence to disappear. They want it to exist. Only one kind of person asks for the record to be wiped, and it's not the kind who's telling the truth. Okay, this next detail might be the single most bizarre thing in this entire story, and I need you to really sit with it. According to insiders, Blake allegedly tried to get Taylor Swift to post a specific caption. The wording being floated around? Something close to, "So sad my bestie couldn't make it to the Super Bowl, stop." Picture that. Taylor Swift, one of the most deliberate, most controlled public communicators alive, posting the word bestie in a caption. When has that ever sounded like her? It hasn't. Not once. It sounds like someone else wrote the line and handed it over like a script for her to perform. Why did this caption even need to exist? To reportedly cover for Blake's absence from the Super Bowl and paint the picture that nothing had changed between them. But here's what that plan accidentally proves. If you need a manufactured social media post to convince the world your friendship is fine, your friendship is not fine. Real friends don't need synchronized PR to look close. They're just close. The second you need a script, you've already admitted it's broken. And here's where this stops being awkward and turns into something serious. Because allegedly, if Taylor said no to that caption, Blake was reportedly prepared to release a decade's worth of private messages. Conversations covering some of the most personal relationships and moments of Taylor's entire life. Let's call that exactly what it is. That is not a friend asking for a small favor. That is leverage. That is someone saying, post what I wrote, or I expose everything I know about you. You can wrap it in a friendship bracelet all you want. That's a threat, full stop. And think about who this was allegedly aimed at. Taylor Swift. Someone who has gone up against people far more experienced public warfare than Blake Lively, and came out stronger every single time. If this happened the way it's being described, this wasn't just a bad decision. It's one of the most tactically insane decisions in recent Hollywood memory. Blake's attorney, Michael Gottlieb, has hit back hard, reportedly calling the claims categorically false, anonymously sourced, and completely disconnected from reality. And sure, that's the job. That's what lawyers get paid to say. But let's actually break down the language, because lawyers pick their words like weapons. Words like categorically and completely false are built to sound forceful in a headline. What they don't do is walk through the specific allegations one by one and explain what actually happened instead. Big denials generate big headlines. They don't generate clarity. That's not me accusing anyone of lying. That's just how these statements are engineered to work. Meanwhile, on the other side, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, has reportedly been telling this exact same version of events for months, in interviews, in filings, without changing a single detail, not softening it, not walking anything back. People who make things up usually have to adjust the story somewhere along the way. This one, allegedly, hasn't moved an inch. Here's the detail that took this from tabloid noise to something that actually matters in a courtroom. The person reportedly behind this information is said to be Taylor's own father, Scott Swift. This isn't some random insider chasing 15 minutes of fame. This is a man who has reportedly been deeply embedded in managing Taylor's career and personal life for years. If Scott Swift really did sit down with the opposing legal team and hand this account over, that's not gossip. That is a calculated legal move by someone who has spent years protecting his daughter and knows exactly what he's doing. And reportedly, this wasn't about spite. It's being framed as an effort to keep Taylor completely out of this, to stop her from being subpoenaed, to stop her private communications from getting dragged into open court for the world to dissect. So allegedly, a deal was reportedly struck. The subpoena aimed at Taylor gets dropped. And in exchange, what Blake allegedly tried to do becomes part of the legal record instead. That's a father protecting his child. But it's also a father who was confident enough in what he knew to walk straight into the opposing camp and hand over the receipts. You don't do that unless you're sure it clears your daughter's name and exposes the person who tried to use her. Let's talk about what Taylor Swift has not done, because it might be the loudest part of this entire story. If any part of this were invented, if Brian Friedman were just slapping Taylor's name onto a fabricated story for shock value, what would you expect Taylor Swift to do? She has the resources. She has a legal team that has gone after people for far smaller things than this. We've watched her send cease and desist letters over blog posts. This is a woman who protects her name like a fortress, and yet, no lawsuit, no statement, no denial, nothing. If someone publicly claimed your closest friend of a decade tried to weaponize your private life against you, and it wasn't true, sitting there in total silence is not what you do. This isn't nothing. This silence is deafening, and it's telling you something whether her camp wants it to or not. And here's where this stops being juicy and starts being genuinely sad. Taylor Swift in all of this may also be a version of a victim herself. When a friend of over a decade comes to you saying she's being mistreated and needs support, you show up. You don't interrogate the story. You don't wonder if your private conversations are being filed away for later use. You just show up, because that's what friendship demands. And allegedly, that's exactly what Taylor did. But at some point, according to this account, the story she was being told reportedly stopped lining up with what she was actually seeing with her own eyes. And realizing that your closeness with someone, after a decade, was allegedly being used as a tactical asset in someone else's battle doesn't just quietly end a friendship. It makes you go back and question every single year that came before it. Zoom out for a second and look at the actual shape of this, because this was never about one caption or one handbag. This is reportedly about a pattern. Staged photos, coordinated public appearances, conveniently timed leaks, and allegedly, an ongoing attempt to script the people around her. Whether that's a best friend, a photographer, or a director on set. When someone tells you what to post, where to stand, how a set should be run, and then reaches for leverage the second someone tells her no, that's not confidence. According to this narrative, that's closer to a compulsion, a refusal to accept any outcome she didn't personally author. And when you can't tolerate that, sooner or later, something you never scripted walks straight into the room. In this story, that's reportedly Scott Swift. Ask yourself why this thing has stayed in headlines this long when most celebrity legal disputes fade out after a news cycle or two. It's because this one has layers most gossip stories don't. It's not just two celebrities are suing each other. It's a workplace dispute, a friendship betrayal, a father walking into enemy legal territory, and one absurdly specific, deeply human detail, a caption about a football game, tying the entire thing together. That's the kind of detail people don't forget. Not the filings, not the procedural back and forth. She allegedly tried to get her best friend to lie about the Super Bowl. That's the sentence that sticks in your head. And once a detail like that locks in, everything else gets read through it. Every staged photo after that looks a little more staged. Every denial sounds a little less convincing. That's just how it works once the pattern is set. And people keep circling back to Ryan Reynolds too. He's not named directly in most of these specific allegations, but he's in nearly every photo, every appearance, every carefully composed moment next to her. Whether that's simply a husband standing by his wife, or part of a broader coordinated image operation, is something reasonable people can argue about. But it's clearly part of why this keeps generating attention, because this isn't just about Blake anymore. It's a couple's entire public image being stress-tested in real time. Here's where this could really be headed, because the lawsuit continues, doesn't tell you much by itself. If this case actually reaches trial instead of quietly settling, we're talking sworn testimony, real discovery of actual messages, and depositions from people who so far have only spoken through lawyers and anonymous leaks. That changes everything. Right now, we're working with allegations and carefully worded statements. A trial forces specifics into the open, under oath, with real consequences attached to lying. That is exactly why cases like this so often settle before they ever get there. Because both sides know what discovery could drag into the light, and neither side necessarily wants the full picture out in public. If Scott Swift really did hand over information specifically to keep Taylor off the stand, that alone tells you both sides are already maneuvering hard to control what does and doesn't become public record. Which means we may never get the complete, unfiltered version of this, just whatever survives the negotiating table. So where does that leave us? Legally, nobody can call this. These cases drag on, they settle, they go to trial, they surprise everyone involved. Anyone telling you they know how this ends is guessing. But culturally, people have already made up their minds, and they're not looking away. The staged photos, the perfectly timed leaks, the missing texts, the alleged pressure campaign, it's adding up into a story that a $68,000 bag simply cannot bury. And that's the part that's genuinely wild. If even half of this is accurate, a decade-long friendship may have been put on the line over one Instagram caption about a football game. That's not strategy. That's staggering. All right, that's where we're leaving it today. But this story is nowhere near finished. There's more coming, and we'll be right here breaking it down the second it drops. Tell me in the comments, do you buy Scott Swift's alleged move here, or do you think there's more going on than we're seeing? I read every single comment, and if you got something out of this, hit like, subscribe to Amelia Brown, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. See you soon.